Today we're going to find out how Zwift, the indoor training platform, helped create the fastest age grouper at Ironman Victoria and possibly the fastest age group in the world later this year in Kona. Plus, she's going to give you her tips on how Zwift can make you faster too. Zwift, the industry-leading online indoor training platform. It started in 2014 as a solution to indoor training boredom and isolation. You could ride indoors whilst riding routes and do it with others, and that was pretty revolutionary. But Zwift has come a long way since then. While it is still the solution to indoor training boredom and stopping it being so excruciatingly boring, it's achieved that goal. Zwift is a whole lot more than that. In fact, if you have high performance goals in cycling or triathlon, Zwift is more than just the escape you use to get away from the worst of the weather. While you still can use Zwift to get away from the worst of the weather when cycling, Zwift is also an invaluable training tool. It is essentially the track session of your cycling program, where you can go for undistracted, targeted, specific hard work towards your goals. This is Steph Clutterbuck, the fastest age grouper at 70.3 Staffordshire and Ironman Victoria Gasteiz this year, and recently world champion in the 25 to 29 age group at the 70.3 World Champs in Lahti, Finland, and a member of the Zwift Triathlon Academy 2023. Thanks for joining us, Steph. You've used Zwift a lot, and to good measure, of course. We're going to get straight into your tips. Before we do though, remember to hit that thumbs up button to support the channel, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss all of our videos. Okay, Steph, we're going to start with your top 5 beginner tips. So, what would your first beginner tip be?
First one is definitely be smart, as in use a smart trainer.
Yes, you don't need a smart trainer to do Zwift, but it does make your gaming experience that much better. It does really enhance the experience, and we promise you, it's worth it.
Definitely make sure you use a fan or two.
Yeah, definitely need a fan. It gets hot indoors, really hot, and you don't want to get just your normal little desktop fan either. Get yourself a proper fan.
Make sure you use the companion app.
Yep, the companion app is a powerful add-on, and it makes the gaming experience that much better. You can send ride-ons, you can communicate with other riders, and just really enhance the game experience.
Use the opportunity to be social.
Be social, that's right. If you just went to your garage to get away from everyone and you were an introvert who doesn't want to interact with anyone, and that's why you set up your Zwift in your garage, then that's fine. We're not judging you. You do you. But riding Zwift doesn't have to be a solo thing in your garage on your own. In fact, Zwift can be really social. So send some ride-ons, message the riders around you, join a group, even join a team Discord so that you can really communicate while you're racing. It doesn't have to be an introverted experience in your garage. It can be pretty social.
And I definitely recommend doing actual sessions.
Oh yeah, do actual sessions. A common beginner mistake is to hop on Zwift and just ride without any kind of goal. And you can do that if you like, but you're kind of missing a big opportunity there. That's a bit like going to a running track and just jogging around the outside lane for an hour. You have the perfect opportunity to do hard efforts, really hard, without worrying about running into anyone, and then also slow right down immediately without worrying about someone running into the back of you. And you don't have to worry about potholes or bin lorries or other traffic or stoplights or anything, so you can really focus on that interval session. Okay, so that's the basics covered, but you're probably here to find out how Steph used Zwift to take her performance to the next level. So let's hop on our bikes and get some more advanced tips.
My first advanced tip is to do an FTP test.
Yep, that's right. Do an FTP test to get the most out of your Zwift and to be able to race your peers, both in Zwift and in the real world. You need to know your FTP, and Zwift has made it that much easier to do your FTP test safely. It's still really hard to do a 20-minute all-out effort indoors, effort-wise anyway, but at least it won't be derailed halfway by a rubbish truck.
For those really specific workouts, use erg mode.
Yeah, erg mode is a powerful tool to keep you on track and let you nail those sessions. Once you know your FTP, you can build a specific session and then you use erg mode to make sure you are exactly on the right numbers. Just don't use it all the time. You're not a robot, and you do need to learn how to pace yourself too.
This is one of my favorites. Make sure you race
Race, yeah. Triathletes tend to avoid this. They have their program, and any deviation from the program is just not allowed. But sometimes it's nice to just go out and ride hard, really hard, and against other people. In the real world, though, this would mean entering a crit race or a time trial, and both of those are very intimidating. But in Zwift, you can enter a race or a time trial against people from all over the world and absolutely smash yourself to bits. And if it doesn't go well, doesn't matter, you're pretty anonymous. Unfortunately, if it does go well and you do win, you're not going to get that much of a pat on the back, but you might get a ride on or two.
Import your custom sessions.
Yeah, that's kind of the opposite of the last point, because you can do your own session. But Zwift has a feature where you can connect training apps such as Training Peaks, and your coach can create a session in there, and you can simply import it straight into Zwift. You open Zwift, and your session is right there, so you can nail your session perfectly.
Add a cadence goal to your sessions.
Yeah, if you're one of those who tends to spin too much, or perhaps tends to grind a massive gear too much, then you can add a cadence goal to your session in Zwift. Of course, you could do this outdoors too, but it's much harder. It's much easier to nail that cadence goal in Zwift.
Remember that we're only human and use the FTP bias function.
Oh yeah, the FTP bias function. Sometimes we just have a bad day, or we're a bit too optimistic when we set that session. Rather than just calling it quits and quitting that session, or completely ignoring the prompts on the screen telling you to ride harder all the time, what you can do is simply adjust your FTP bias. This essentially just lowers your FTP, just for the session, not in real life, just for that session, so you can get through it a little bit more easily on those not so good days. You can also increase the FTP bias if you want to, but I think that's a lot less common.
Definitely make sure you calibrate your trainer often.
Yeah, Zwift recommends you calibrate your trainer every time you move your trainer, or at least every 7 days. Either way, you should calibrate it often. You don't want your trainer lying to you and telling you that you're pushing more power than you actually are, because race day is going to be a bit of a shock to the system then. You also don't want it under-reading and making you really suffer and not feel good, especially if you're racing on Zwift. So make sure you calibrate that turbo often. All right, that's it. I think we've got some pretty good tips there. Anything else you want to add, Steph?
I do have a couple more actually, James.
Oh, yeah?
So number one, make sure you start your fan before you start pedaling. There's nothing worse
good one. I didn't do
than having to get off mid-ride. And also, make sure you've got bottles, towel and headphones well within reach so that you can just get on with the session as planned.
I don't have any of those things.
Race starting. 3, 2, 1.
This is going to be a long race. Where did I leave my bottle?